Text number 28. Komarim darshayam chestam prekshaniyam rajakosum rudaniva hasamukta bala simhavalokana Komarim darshayam chestam prekshaniyam vrajakusam rudanivahasam mukta bala simhavalokana. Komarim, just suitable to childhood. Darshayam, while showing. Chestam, activities. Prekshaniyam, worthy to be seen. Vrajokasam, by the inhabitants of the land of Vrindavan. Rudan, crying. Eva, just like. Hasan, laughing. Mugda, struck with wonder. Balasimha, lion cub. Avalokana, looking like that. Translation: when the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, he was visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh, just like a child, and while doing so, he would appear like a lion cub. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. If anyone wants to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord, then he has to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Raja, like Nanda, Upananda, and other parental inhabitants. A child may insist on having something and cry like anything to get it, disturbing the whole neighbourhood. Yes, that's right. And then immediately after achieving the desired thing, he laughs. Such crying and laughing is enjoyable to the parents and elderly members of the family. So the Lord would simultaneously cry and laugh in this way and merge his devotee parents in the humour of transcendental pleasure. These incidents are enjoyable only by the residents of Raja like Nanda Maharaj, and not by the impersonalist worshippers of Brahman or Paramatma. Sometimes, when attacked in the forest by demons, Krishna would appear struck with wonder, but he looked on them like a cub of a lion and killed them. His childhood companions would also be struck with wonder, and when they come back home, they would narrate the story to their parents, and everyone would appreciate the qualities of their Krishna. Child Krishna did not belong only to his parents, Nanda Yasoda. He was the son of all the elderly inhabitants of Vrindavan and the friend of all contemporary boys and girls. Everyone loved Krishna. He was the life and soul of everyone, including the animals, the cows and the calves. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha Durgame Padinendasya Skalapate Katir Muhusva Kripa Yustudanana Shantu Shantu Alambanam. I've been asked to say something by Charanaravinda Prabhu in his place, who is so busy, and this is just such a nectar sloka here. It almost stands out on its own. So, we're talking about Vrindavan. I'll just read the translation again. Text 28. When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, it was visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh just like a child, and while doing so he would appear like a lion cub. So just to the residents of Vrindavan. So outside of Vrindavan in Krishna's time, that the population, 99.999% of the population of the world at that point in time did not understand or fully comprehend that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had just descended onto this earth planet and he was residing on the planet. The demigods knew, but the people on the earth planet had no idea. The eternal enemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the total enemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, eternal for the duration of the earth, anyway, up to now, Kamsa, he knew he was the enemy, sworn enemy of Vishnu. So he was told Vishnu's coming. So for him, Vishnu was his enemy. He wasn't the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was just this powerful adversary that he had to dispatch, or otherwise he would become dispatched himself. So it didn't matter to him what state of being Vishnu was in, whether he was a small child or a boy or a youth, whatever. He had to be killed. It didn't matter. So he was out to kill him. So only the devotees were aware of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but on the other hand they weren't aware, because by the potency of Yoga Maya, she'd actually covered them all over. So they actually thought, just like Prabhupada says in the purport, that Krishna was theirs. They're worried about him. He said, boy, they're all constantly talking about him. The elderly gopis, they thought Krishna was their son, and the young gopis, they're just their contemporary friend. Actually, the whole of the village just revolved around Krishna. If Krishna went out to herd the cows with all the cowherd boys, and the village would almost come to a standstill. This was recorded in this was spoken about in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Rupa Goswami, who explained that Bokamara finally made it to Vrindavan, and then he saw all the houses and the tracks and said, this is very much like where I've come from. And then he asked a resident from Vrindavan, where's Krishna? But the resident was dumbstruck. He was just standing still when he couldn't answer him. And then he asked someone else, and finally said, Krishna's coming soon. And then he saw all the dust, and had heard the sound of a flute from a long distance, and then the dust pile got bigger and some figures appeared, and all the village became animated. It came to life. It just come to life again, and Krishna was coming. So the love of their life was coming back. Actually, there's one related pastime about Nanda Maharaj. He was so attached to his Krishna that he was worried that he wasn't worshipping his deity properly. He had a deity of Vasudeva, is that right? Vasudeva was his deity. So he thought, I better address this issue. So I'll leave the house and I'll go into a quiet spot in the woods here, and I'll meditate on my Vasudeva. So he sat down in a good spot, purified his hands, closed his eyes, began to meditate on Vasudeva. But every time he meditated on Vasudeva, he'd think about some pastime that Krishna just performed. And just like they say here, that sometimes he'd be crying, so much wanting something, and then when he received that, and then he'd laugh and make everybody else laugh like that. And he'd be walking around with his father's slippers on his head. We've seen that picture in the Krishna book. Pick up his slippers, take his slippers. So and then he'd check himself. No, I'm not here about Krishna. I'm here meditating on Vasudeva. So he'd try to meditate on Vasudeva again. Once again, he'd fall back on the pastimes of Krishna, and he'd be smiling and laughing, giggling to himself. In the end, he gave up. Just went back home. Oh, it's time to feed Krishna. I'll go back home. So of course, we know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Vasudeva is just one of his expansions. So all the devotees are just totally happy in the association of Krishna. So it says that in the Bhagavad Gita, in the key slokas in the 10th chapter, we always had to learn the 4 slokas when we were younger devotees, not when we were young, just younger devotees. And 10.9 is one of them. Mad chitta mad gata prana bodhayante parasparam katayantas chamam nityam tusyanti cha romanti cha. Always remember the last line, it's very poetic. Tusyanti cha romanti cha. Thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me. They derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another, conversing about me. So this morning, actually, I was listening to Surat Prabhu, and he was giving a discourse from the Namamrita. Remember that, Ram? That he was talking about, Prabhupada in that discourse was talking about Haridas Thakur. Right? We can't imitate Haridas Thakur. That Haridas, he would go to a solitary place and he'd just focus on chanting, and he would chant this monumental number of rounds which took all day and most of the night. And he'd be on his own there, just completely focused on his chanting. Prabhupada said we can't imitate that. That is not our business. Our business is actually to shanti cha, romanti cha, enlightening each other about Krishna, chanting and dancing in ecstasy. So association of devotees is a very important thing for all of us. Sadhu Sangha. So one point in time, there's another really nice story related to this one about Balaram, that it was in the middle of the day in Vrindavan. They were out herding the cows, and in the middle of the day Krishna sometimes likes to sneak off. He just makes some pretense, there's a calf missing, I've got to go and find the calf, right? And then all of a sudden he's disappeared, and we all know where he's gone. He's gone looking for the gopis, right, to see where the gopis are. So one time Balaram, he took the boys, and I believe it's Bahulavan, it's right on the edge of Vrindavan. He took them to this very nice pasture, and there was a big hill there. And all the boys went onto the top of the hill and they went sliding down, and it's so much fun. Sometimes we used to use cardboard, I don't know what they use, trees of bark, and they go sliding down the hill, they're having so much fun. And then after that he took them over the hill and took them a little bit further down the hill, and he drew a line in the ground. You know the story? Yeah. He drew a line in the ground and he said, this is the edge of Vrindavan. Here on this side we all remember Krishna. On the other side we forget Krishna. Everybody's forgotten Krishna on the other side. And the boy's going, what? How can people forget Krishna? How can that be? Right? And then Balaram said, I have to go on, he had to do something, maybe look for a calf or something. So he went away. So the boys are there pondering this. Can anyone forget Krishna? And then boys being boys, one of them said, I dare you to cross the line. Right, like the boy said, no, I'm not crossing the line. Oh, well, you're just squeamish. You're coward, right? Coward. Okay, I'll cross the line, right? So one boy, I heard the name Siddharma. I can't quite remember, but anyway, one of them crosses the line, goes a distance, then comes back again. He goes, now it's your turn, right? And the other boy goes, okay, I'll go further. So he goes further, and it went on for a while till they went a fair way, maybe 100 metres or something like that, not too far, but all of a sudden, then all the boys came, right? They've got a bit of Dutch courage. They all come. They're all on this other side of the line, looking at Vrindavan. And then all of a sudden, Vrindavan seemed so tiny, so small. And they got scared and they come running back. And just as they come running back, Balaram reappeared. And they go, we're never going to cross the line. We always want to be with Krishna. So it was a little pastime for Bahulavan. So a little bit further. So we all, with sort of, when we surrender to Krishna, we forget what it's like to forget Krishna, because we're always involved in Krishna service, and sometimes when we have to sort of go away because there's some family obligation or something, we do feel that separation from Krishna very much so. So in Vrindavan, Kamsa, going back to Kamsa, because he was out to get Krishna, so Prabhupada talks about how certain demons appeared, and he created great wonder to Krishna as a lion cub. We can conjure up sometimes, cubs and cats are very curious. They come across something and they hit it with their paw like that, and they look at it and sniff it, and then they sort of play with it. So Krishna, in the mood of a lion cub, when these demons come, he'd be just look totally amazed. And then all the boys would also be amazed. So Kamsa had this bevy, he had this army of demonic personalities. And they're all mystic cities that he'd come across. He'd been hunting them all over India. He'd collected all of them, Bhutana, all the ones, Trinivata, Bakashura, rattle them out, Dhanukashura, Agashura. They're all in his stable. He kept them all in Mathura. Can you imagine being in Mathura with all these demons hanging around? You'd be very, very nervous. So he had these demons, and they were shaped. They had the quality of mystic cities. They could change shape. Well, we call them shapeshifters in the more modern era there. So, they did exist. No, did exist. So I just want to discuss one of them was in the early days of Krishna, one of the big demons was Trinivata demon. So he was massive demon. Actually, all the demigods feared these demons also. So we know that first of all Kamsa sent Putana when Krishna was about 10 days old to kill him, and he dispatched her. And then he sent it's either Shankasura or Shatkasura, I'm not quite sure, maybe both names mean the same thing. So, of course, Shatkasura changed himself into the shape of a cart, this huge cart with pots and pans in it, and somehow or other Mother Yasoda put him under the cart, and then he was going to just drop on Krishna and crush him. Heavy pots, golden pots, everything, it looked spectacular. So Mother Yasoda said, this is a nice place to put him. It was the demon as a cart. Before he had a chance, Krishna started crying because Mother Yasoda put him down. And he's crying, and then he kicked his legs and kicked the cart into pieces and killed the demon. So after that was the Krishna celebration. Anybody know what that celebration was at that point in time when the demon came? No, it was he was just able to turn over on his side. So when the babies lay on their back, and it's like 1 month or 2 months, right? So for his first birthday, his birthday present was the Trinivata demon. So at that point in time, Kamsa sent Trinivata, and they were celebrating Krishna's first birthday. So Mother Yasoda, she was carrying Krishna around, parading him and being very ecstatic, having her baby with him, and then all of a sudden Krishna got really heavy, because being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he knew that this big demon was coming, and he wanted to dispatch this demon. So Krishna became heavier and heavier and heavier, and she had to put him down. So he's down on the ground, she's sort of watching him, and she's doing all the duties. So at that point in time, that demon struck. He told Kamsa, don't worry, I'll get rid of him. I'm so powerful I can blow anything away. So a very powerful tornado come into Vrindavan, and it started to spin around, and dust was flying everywhere, and everybody became blinded. And sometimes we see these tornadoes. We don't experience them so much in Australia, but in America they're just so powerful that huge semi-lorries, they just whisked up in the air and then throw down somewhere else and crush. So that was the intention of the demon, that he was going to whisk Krishna high up in the air, so high, and then just drop him, kill him. So everybody became blinded, and the demon grabbed Krishna, who was on the ground, and took him away, and all of a sudden the dust cleared. And Mother Yasoda saw, oh, my Krishna's not here, what's happened? And she fell on the ground crying piteously, and all the Gopas, they came along, what's happened? All the elderly gopis, and they all started looking for Krishna all over the village, and they couldn't see him anywhere. So it describes that Mother Yasoda was crying just like a cow has lost its newborn calf. Very, very tragic. In the meantime, the demon had taken Krishna out of Vrindavan, and Krishna was going for a ride. So high up in the air, the demon's taking him higher and higher, and all of a sudden Krishna becomes heavier. He sort of becomes heavier and heavier, and he becomes heavy like a mountain. And then while he's becoming heavier, he clutches the demon by his neck, just like he's a baby hanging on, nothing special, just starts clutching him his neck and choking the demon off, and he's getting heavier and heavier, and all of a sudden the demon couldn't stay in the air anymore. He come crashing down and got smashed in the rocks down below there, completely crushed, right, dead. And Krishna's going, they're having a great time laughing. And then all the residents come, what happened? What happened? And of course they couldn't put it together. They didn't know what happened. They didn't know that actually Krishna killed the demon. They couldn't believe it. How could he do it? He's just a little boy like that. But they were so relieved to have him back again. So that was like an amazing pastime of a Trinivata demon, powerful tornado. So where are we up to now? So some say with that particular pastime, because it was Krishna's first birthday, he got a free ride, just like babies like to sometimes just roll them up in the air. Woo, up the baby goes, and a big look of delight on their face. So Krishna got a really, really good ride, and he got a cushioned ride down, and he was very happy about that. So a big smile on his face. So whenever Krishna has a big smile on his face, then all the residents of Vrindavan are so happy because Krishna's happy, because it all revolves around Krishna's pastimes. In the Brahma Samhita, there's a very beautiful sloka, Premanjana Churito Bhakti Vilochiyena Shanta Shadeva Rita Yesu Vilochayanti, that the devotees of Krishna, they're lured away by Krishna, and they can see Krishna, and their eyes are tinged with their eyes become tinged with the self of love. Shanta, there's a saintly devotee, Shanta Sudeva, imbued with love of Godhead, Vilochayanti. They've been lured away from everything. They're just completely focused on Krishna. So that's the Yogamaya potency. So, and then their eyes are tinged with the self of love. So, similarly, in real time, our time here, we do like to go to Vrindavan because we experience Krishna in Vrindavan. Okay, we go to Vrindavan, and what we do, we go to these places where Krishna performed these wonderful pastimes, and we relish this pastime. It doesn't really matter how many times we go, we just enjoy the transcendental nectar of how Krishna performed so many different feats to amaze the residents of Vrindavan and to protect the residents of Vrindavan. And we feel the mood of Vrindavan there. So when the devotee imbibes the mood of Vrindavan, he becomes very attached to Vrindavan, doesn't really care about the externals. Actually, Vrindavan is on the edge of a desert, and in summer it gets unbearably hot. Who's been in Vrindavan in summer? From Bali. Very hot. Krishna Rupa's been in summer. Have you been there with Mayapur? Not quite as hot as Vrindavan, but still. So very, very hot, unbearably, can hardly breathe. And in winter it's very, very cold, freezing, shivering. So there's that, and then there's the bad water, that if you're not very careful you get really, really sick and you turn green. Right? Anybody turn green? particular colour, Rasa Vrindavan. And there's sanitation, and there's thousands of monkeys that just completely pester you. Can't wear sunglasses, got to hide your telephone, hide your wallet. They'll get you, don't carry any fruit, they'll steal that. And then there's the beggars and all the other hustle bustle that's going on. So sometimes people go there and they think, what is this place? It's just another place, and it's it's not very pleasant, materially speaking, not very pleasant, right? But actually when you get onto the transcend all of that and understand Krishna's pastimes, in your mind's eye you're seeing Krishna, and you always want to go back and see Krishna. And everybody always wants to go back to Vrindavan once they've experienced a bit of taste of Krishna. They always talk about, because we can never stay, we just go for a short visit, and that's what it's meant to be. Prabhupada said that we just need to refresh. And on the other hand, other sages saying, live in Vrindavan, it's the place to be. So devotees are somehow or other torn. They always talk about going to live in Vrindavan or go and stay in Vrindavan, visit Vrindavan. Because we know that when we go to Vrindavan, we discuss Krishna's pastimes, we'll even get some more things out of that, because we're coming more and more closer to Krishna. We're making that connection with Krishna. And that connection actually gets rid of all this sort of desires within the heart. And so it's always nice to discuss pastimes with Krishna. So this is the purport here. This is all I have to say. We're only at 8:10. I can either ask questions, but then at some point in time this week I just want to relate a pastime, because on Saturday we're having Rath Yatra in Brisbane. Who's going to Rath Yatra in Brisbane on Saturday? Okay, who's not going? Oh, you're not there. So better arrange some transport there. So we're talking, this is a bit relevant here, the sloka here, because just the word shock comes in, that when that's one of the rasas that you have here, that the cowherd boys, they've been in shock when they saw these demons, and Krishna also was a little bit of a shock. So it's like a transcendental humour. So maybe if I could it's a rather a lengthy story, about 5 to 10 minutes, but maybe I'll have to talk about it sometime, because I'm the only guy that sort of can remember it now, and its history in this ISKCON Yatra in Australia, it should be remembered. It's the last Rath Yatra we had through the city of Melbourne. So we had 2 Rath Yatras previously in Melbourne, and you might be able to tell me, I know Prabhupada was in the second one. Was he in the first Rath Yatra also in Melbourne? No, he came in 74, right? 74 he came. 75, it wasn't a Rath Yatra then? No, so I joined in 75. So there was the 2 Rath Yatras through the streets, 3 big carts like what we've got, right? So on the 3rd Rath Yatra, Prabhupada was supposed to come in January. Anyway, come in January in 76, right? So we made such elaborate preparations that Prabhupada was coming. 3 carts, got the permission from the council in Melbourne and everything. And then at the last moment in January, Prabhupada was sick in Vrindavan, I believe, and he couldn't come in 1976. So we were disappointed, but we still carried on, and it was quite a momentous day. What we had to do was we had the 3 carts in our back of the temple, and we had to push them to the Fitzroy Gardens, through the streets of Melbourne, down Swanson Street, up through Latrobe Street, up to Fitzroy Gardens, because that's where the parade started, right? And we started this at midnight, so we all went to bed early, got up at midnight, all of us. I don't know, there weren't many of us, somewhere or other, we all had to push 3 carts. So we're out there, and I remember Upananda, he had this whole bag of lugloos, not ladus, lugloos. I had a bit of a discussion about what a luglu is. It's not a ladu, it's sort of got all these little puff balls in it. It's lovely. And he kept giving us these lugloos, and we're pulling away for energy. And the third cart, I was on the third cart, we got to Flinders Street Station, which is about halfway, and the wheel gave way. We had these wheels, they weren't like spokes, right? They weren't spokes, they were cable wheels that there's these big wire cables and they had this square wood and they would shape a round wheel out of that wood somehow or other. And that just that collapsed. So we'd pull the cart, it'd go around, clunk. We'd pull it again, and go clunk. So we got as many devotees as we could, and we got 4 blocks. We got to Latrobe Street, pull it, clunk, and it's about 4 in the morning, and the police are getting rather restless. Come on, you guys. I remember that all the devotees crashed out in the middle of the road in Latrobe Street. They're done. So you can't stay here, get up. So they got a truck somehow and they pulled that cart to the Fitzroy Gardens. Now that was a challenge because the parade had to leave at 12 o'clock on the dot. The police, Melbourne police, just by the rules, 12 o'clock or no parade, right? So the devotees had 6 hours to get another wheel. So they woke up this guy at 6 in the morning on Saturday morning and bought another one of them big cable things off him, and then they started to shape a wheel out of this square piece of wood. And Ugashrava, he'll be my hero for life there, he had a chainsaw, he's sort of cutting it, and then somebody ran out of petrol and somebody put kerosene in it instead of petrol. So we were there at 6 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning, the call came, okay, devotees are wanted at the temple, we've got to take the wheel back, right? So we hopped in one of the Sankirtan vans. We used to have those combis, those lovely combis that they glorify these days, the old combi van. So there's about 8 of us in a combi van, and this crazy driver called Kripakara was driving it. So it goes hanging down Exhibition Street. I don't know if you know Melbourne, but you turn right into Collins Street, and everybody knows there's no left turn from Collins Street into Flinders Street. But it didn't stop Kripakara. There's a policeman on the corner there, right in the middle of the road. He just makes a left-hand turn, and the cop goes, "What?" And then blows the whistle. We keep going, and then he's radioing through to Flinders Street to the policeman there, and the copy this, and just as he was on the thing, and he's looking for the car, whoosh, right past him, right? He's blowing his whistle. We just went straight. We get back to the temple, and we see Yugashrava still, it's like Beamer or something like that. He had this axe, and he'd go whack, whack, whack with this axe, trying to make a wheel, right, with an axe, right? Somehow or other, after half an hour, we actually get the wheel. He put a steel plate on the wheel. It was ready, and it was sort of like about 11:30, right? We had half an hour to go. And we had a flatbed truck, I don't know where it come from, and we're all supposed to pin the wheel down. There's about 6 of us on the flatbed truck. And I don't know who was driving, it was probably Kripakara again, but he'd take the corner and the whole wheel would go for a slide. And I remember some guys going, "Oh, my legs are crushed," like that on the other side. We actually made the Fitzroy Gardens like about 1 minute to 12, or almost right on 12, right? We all hop off, they're taking the wheel, the first cart had already gone, the second cart was about to leave, and I remember Sabhavati saying to me, "Hop on the cart." And I hopped on the cart, and by the time I climbed the ladder, our cart was moving too, right on 12. I mean, I really experienced a sort of, state of wonder there. I was just totally amazed. I said, what just went down? Here we were on the car. So it was the last Rath Yatra. It was a very boisterous one. It took a long time to get through. We had the Christians at the back protesting. So I was on the cart, and not many people made on the cart. It was only me and some other guy and a driver, some devotee. And then I looked, and there's all these dies and all these sort of balls that you can throw around. I go, wow, and so we've got to put them to good use. So we start hurling them at the Christians, You know, Jesus saves lives, pagans, you know, all these signs, they all chant slogans, they all got covered in blue and red, and the streets were covered in blue and red. It was a fantastic festival. Went right around through the back of Queen Street back to the Fitzroy Gardens, and the carts actually fitted into the exhibition buildings. We drove the carts right into the buildings. Right, the 3 carts, and the deities were on the carts there, and we put them on the stage. Madhavis had one of his magnificent plays. It was called Magrari the Hunter. I can't remember if I was in it or not, but I just do remember that Goramandala Bhumi, he was supposed to be one of the animals that got hunted and killed. And when it was time for him to get off, he'd fallen asleep, so he was stuck there to wake him up. It was a hard night. And we had a magnificent festival. It was a spectacular Rath Yatra festival, but it was the last festival through the streets of Melbourne. That was in 1976. There's never been another one since. It's all been down Beaconsfield Parade in St Kilda. So this is this amazing sort of pastime with all the rasas are there. So as devotees, we do experience some rasas there. So I think at Rath Yatras there's always some rasa going on. Everybody can relate some pastime that they had. There's always rasas there if you look for them, the Sunday feast. When we participate in pastime, when we do service, we always have, there is some ecstasy. Usually there's anxiety before the ecstasy. It always has to be that way, doesn't it? That you get put into anxiety, just like when the demons come along, all the coward boys, the residents, everybody are totally fearful. And when the demons dispatched, everybody's so happy and delirious and so relieved and say, oh, that was fun. They forget all about the bad times. They just think, oh, that was just a great pastime. So that was the my spin on the sloka, beautiful sloka. It keeps going tomorrow, another very nice sloka tomorrow. So anybody like to add to it, make a comment or... yeah.
In the verse it talks about a child named Sister crying, disturbed the whole neighbourhood. So Prabhu was giving a class, I don't know where it was, and in the background you could hear a child crying. And Prabhu says, yes, he says that a young child can cry, that can be heard for 3 miles. And then he goes on and he says, they've got a body just suitable to be able to do that. He said, even if we were completely distressed, there's no way that you can cry and be heard for 3 miles.
Yeah, I heard Pragoshi was giving a pastime. I was told about one of his pastimes. He was describing with babies, they cry so loudly that, you know, the parents, even though if they ignored the baby, because sometimes, you know, the mum sort of goes to the baby and then the dad, no, don't go near the baby. Or if mum's not there, let the baby cry, whatever. But the baby cries so much that it chokes up, like all of a sudden it can't breathe. He's sort of so much into crying that he's forgotten how to breathe. He looks like he's choking. You know, so you have to come and help the baby, right? And then he's so distressed, and then you put something in the baby's hand and he's just happy again, you know, just like, all of a sudden goes away. It just doesn't wind down. There's no gradual wind down. They're just like, hey, I've just been putting on an act. You know, I'm all right now, like that. They just want attention. It's amazing. Anybody? Someone?
Thank you for the class. You were mentioning about going to a holy place like Vrindavan, then the potency is there in the holy place, but we also hear that there's a thin veil covered in the holy place, the Dham, and that one may be in the material world even living within the holy place. Can you just mention a bit about that?
Yeah, I sort of did allude to it, that you have to actually understand the spiritual nature of Krishna. And so to do that, really you have to prepare yourself, that you have to immerse yourself in the process of bhakti, where you understand your relationship with Krishna, that it's a personal relationship, but actually you're the servant of Krishna, the supreme person. And when you understand that Krishna can do so many things that are beyond the scope of our imagination, because His Supreme Personality of Godhead, you can understand and go into the nature of his pastimes. Janma karma chama divyam. One who understands the transcendental nature of my pastimes never has to take birth again. So to do that sometimes, because if we're on the material platform, then we'll deem it to be far-fetched, or it's not really, it's just really hard to believe, or we can't grasp it. Sometimes it's just, you go and hear it, you go, okay, everybody accepts it, but I can't grasp it myself. I don't know, I think I was like that in the beginning when Krishna, performed all these pastimes, killed all these big demons. It's just beyond our comprehension. Then the more we enter into the service attitude, and that we become fixed at our service and eliminate all the distractions that are there, unmotivated devotional service, then Krishna reveals himself to us. So just like Krishna is always there, it said he never leaves Vrindavan. So when you discuss Krishna, Krishna's there in his name and his form and his pastimes. So therefore, when you hear Krishna's pastimes, you're hearing about Krishna, and you can relish that. And actually that's why going to Vrindavan is so potent, that you chant Krishna's names. It's said that it's 1,000 times as potent. But if you're carrying an artist with you, then the unwanted things in your heart, then the unwanted things also rear up within you. Just like they have that standard joke amongst ISKCON devotees that people go to Vrindavan just to visit the holy place of Lord Bazaar and do their shopping, right? So, sometimes we get diverted, we get carried away because you get all these fantastic clothes in Lloyd Bazaar. So easy, the mind takes you away, right? And so therefore if you focus your mind on Krishna, you really get the benefit of it. It's like so, so great to go there. Yes.
Miraculous things happen, or good coincidences happen, a little bit like magic. And even though you see all the things that you were mentioning in the class, like the pigs or the that Rajni was talking about, but then these different things happen that it's just a bit more than coincidence. It's not magic.
Purification, you mean?
No, it's like the fun times when you go there. You sort of, it's, you do see that Krishna, even though you're not qualified, but Krishna is such a wonderful host. And then you feel, oh my God, this is like magic. But Krishna himself, is hiding at the same time. So why does Krishna hide himself and reveal himself at the same time?
Oh, Krishna's in control. He's always in control there, like that. But I sort of wasn't fully paying attention. There's a whole sort of distraction here, but also he hid from the gopis as well, and there was a reason for that, for him hiding from the gopis, that he wanted to increase their love for him. So sometimes we can reach a certain level in our devotional service. Maybe we become very either proud of our service or complacent with our service, and everything is sort of very blissful, but actually it's the material world. There's never total bliss in the material world. There's always something. So somewhere or other there's a little hidden surprise there for us. Krishna's in control, and we can understand the nature of our difficulty that is there to enhance our pastime. Totally distracted now, so give it close. All these people coming. So we'll call it here, and Jai Srila Prabhupada, all glory Srila Bhagavatam.